Welcome back to the Top 6 Show. Hit the like buttons. Make sure you are subscribing and get the bell notification button turned on as well. Mo Salah set to sign a new deal is some of the biggest breaking news today. We're going to delve into that story. Obviously, we're going to get Tom Little's opinion on it. He's been seen filming at the Albert Dock in Liverpool, and many think that is to announce that he is staying in Merseyside for longer, but we're going to break all of that down. We're also going to be speaking about the Liverpool hypocrisy in relation to last night's red card as well. But finally, seasons-old debates are going to be put to sleep and put to bed. We're also going to be touching on the injury to Gabriel. What does it mean for Arsenal? What should they do moving forward with some big games ahead in the Champions League as well? But to start with, we are going to talk about tonight's game. They've dropped down to 6th in the league. It is must win for Chelsea Football Club. We've seen the pressure mount, and the Sun now has the picture on. I didn't realize how grey in the beard Maresca has gone this season, unless he was dyeing his beard at the beginning of the campaign. So very stressful times for Chelsea. Spurs also must win, sitting 14th in the league as well. The boys are going to be previewing it with me. George is coming soon as well. I want to welcome Josh to the Football Terrace, a big Aston Villa fan. Welcome, my friend, and thank you for making your debut.
Absolute pleasure to be on, and thank you for having me on. Obviously, I think it's quite a tasty show today with some of the topics that you're talking about. I'm sure it'll cause a bit of debate and may touch a few nerves with certain fan bases who will have to accept and maybe eat a little bit of humble pie, maybe, if that's what maybe you're sort of initiating. But yeah, no, looking forward to it. And of course, tonight I very much have my Spurs hat on, praying Spurs.
Glad you do, mate. I don't.
Yeah, I honestly, Henry, I've been in and around a lot of Spurs fans the last few days. No one seems confident. No one seems confident about beating Chelsea, and that's sort of fans who are relying on Spurs to do the job. It's quite disheartening to hear. So if Spurs fans won't wave the flag, we'll try our best. But yeah, I just need that Chelsea collapse because it's what I predicted. Those who don't know, I said that I think Maresca is completely out of his depth as a Chelsea manager. I saw what he did at Leicester City last season, nearly bottom of the league. I feel he's more of a coach than a manager, and that Chelsea screw's turning. And I know it upsets a few Chelsea fans when you mention that potentially, they've once again made a really poor managerial appointment. So yeah, for me, I said Chelsea will finish below Aston Villa again this season before a ball was kicked. That'll be 3 seasons in a row. That'll be massive for me. So yeah, come on Spurs, and yeah, thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. I mean, staying on that subject, because I think it's worthwhile talking about. You say that Maresca is out of his depth. Is it just he's too inexperienced to manage a club the size of Chelsea in a league as difficult as the Premier League, or is there something else that you think is wrong?
Both, really. I think, look, the Chelsea job for me is still, after what Jose Mourinho came and done at that club, he set the sort of standards. He set the standards of what it means to be a Chelsea manager. Of course, yeah, mentions to people like Ranieri previous to that. But for me, that job, you felt the expectation when this Chelsea title talk came into place. And the manager went into a shell. Then all of a sudden, we saw in-game management from Maresca, shocking, his lack of use of his bench. And we talk about this amazing squad depth that Chelsea have. And I know, Terry, offline, you're talking about Don telling us how good Chelsea's squad depth is. Well, why is this squad depth not being used in-game like we're seeing? And then all of a sudden, the excuses come. So I think there's one part to it. And I think there's also a fundamental difference between that being a coach and being a manager. I think Maresca, it, for me, falls into that category. I got no doubt about it that he's probably a very top level coach. And if you look at some of the stuff that Pep Guardiola said about him, that's true. But when it comes to managing, I think it's a completely different ball game. And I just think Maresca is feeling that pressure. Chelsea's away record, again, crunch time of the season, Chelsea's away record is poor. And so for me, I just think that there is pressure on him tonight because, correct me if I'm wrong, Henry, is it something like 34? Was I right here? Spurs
one win in 34 years at the Bridge.
it's the type of but it's the type of game tonight that maybe again if Maresca loses this, and I think you obviously put it in title, Chelsea must win tonight, Terry, and I think that a loss tonight just shines
Yeah,
that spotlight
I,
on Maresca even more so.
I think it is a massive, massive, massive must win for Chelsea. I don't think there is any way of sort of papering over that crack, because since they went, I think it was like mid-December, they had an opportunity to go top and they lost the game. In that period, they've won, I think, 4 matches, and that's been against Leicester, Southampton, Wolves, and West Ham. So over a 14-game period, just 4 wins. It might be 13 games, 13 or 14 games, 4 wins. And all of those teams that they've beaten have been below them in the form table. Now, Spurs and Ipswich are also below them in that same period of form table. So to not beat Spurs, one, as you say, that 34-year record, Spurs are in awful, worse form than them. Plus, I think what was keeping a lot of certain Chelsea, some Chelsea fans have been calling this out. A lot of others, we have quite a few viewers. DJ, hope you're watching. Why are you criticizing us? We're in 4th. And I haven't actually seen him for a while, but we have an American guy that comes on who goes by the name of Ronin. I hope he's well and hope he's good. Just haven't seen him in the chat for a while. Another person that's not criticized, we're 4th. Well, you're now 6th. You don't win tonight and you stay 6th. And then over the course of the next couple of game weeks, you end up in 7th or 8th and then only maintain that level. It's a disastrous season. One, considering you bought more players in the summer. It's the 3rd year of your club size rebuild. And when you're going into a 3rd year, ending your 3rd year, still only in and around sort of a high mid-table position, no Champions League football again, plus the start they had, it would be horrendous. So Chelsea tonight, look, they've had some really good performances this season. Earlier on in the campaign, they were playing well. They blew some teams away. They were looking brilliant. Maresca has got to try and find a way to get this Chelsea team cooking. And where there are even less excuses for Chelsea is Palmer, Jackson. The injury list is then shortened as well. So I think you're absolutely right. Everything coupled in, and even though they're the favourites because of Spurs' awful record at the Bridge, I think it puts a lot of pressure on them, as you say, to go out there and win. It really does. Don here has a question for you, actually, Josh. He says, question for Josh. Your take on Maresca is fair. However, do you believe that you won't be able to turn things around between now and the end of the season?
Sure, there's no signs to suggest he will. The only things I can go off, is last season at Leicester City. How did the season end? How did the season end? In turmoil. They were on a frantic decline. They were scraping for that first spot in the end. And basically, that's a manager for me who can't handle the run-in at the end of the season. So I can only go off that semantic. The other one for me is this is what I was thinking about with Chelsea. Has anyone actually improved under Maresca? Has any Chelsea individual improved under Maresca? And has Maresca actually found his best lineup yet? I still think he's searching, still think he's scratching. He's got a real big problem with the 9. So Don said, do I think he can turn things around between now and the end of the season? I think it's a frantic period in which he doesn't have much time to. April is a hectic month for every team. Midweek games, weekend games, especially the Conference League. For me, it's going to come down to what do these group of players have? What quality do these group of players have now to do that? So I personally, for me, don't think they'll get top 4. I personally don't think they'll turn it around, and I think it has to fall on Maresca come the end of the season, and that will hurt some Chelsea fans. But I'm putting it down to, again, a really poor managerial appointment for the trajectory that club is trying to go for.
Josh, sorry to cut you off. Are you confident that you're with Unai and the squad you've got now, you'll finish above Chelsea? I know you said at the beginning of the show, but of course you're still in the FA Cup. You've got more games to play. You're still in the Champions League. Are you still confident that you will 1,000,000% finish above them?
So coming into January, February, I was, because I just believed that I felt the progress going, and then we had a really poor blip where we dropped points to teams around then, like Ipswich, your Brightons, your West Hams, etc. Right now, if you had to ask me, I would probably say yes, because of our squad depth. I believe Aston Villa yesterday, we saw again, Henry, with the squad depth that we've got, when you've got the likes of Donyell Marlon, Ollie Watkins, Anana, Ian Matson, Disasi, all on the bench. I think our squad depth allows us to compete across all competitions. And I don't know. I've just got this feeling that Maresca is going to really struggle in the next couple of months. They're dipping at the wrong time. We're peaking at the right time. That's how I feel.
Do you know what it is, right? There'll be people that will look to clip Josh up, and that's fair. Josh already gives me the impression that he's got thick enough skin to take being clipped up. And I've only just met him in the last 10 minutes and 10 minutes backstage. You can just tell that he's not going to be a baby and cry about it. But I will also echo what he's saying and state this. There is no evidence in the last 4 months, 3.5, 4 months, to suggest that Chelsea are going to finish ahead of Villa, Newcastle, Forest, Manchester City. Those teams are just playing better and winning more games. And when you look at Villa as an example, I saw today a big account talk about Omar Mamouche being the best January signing. Been a very good one. A lot of his goals have come against the lesser sides, but he's been a very good one. How are you not saying it's Asenio? I know it's a loan, but that man has scored ridiculous amounts of goals. He looks a star. Rashford is creating. He's now started scoring as an example. Villa are stacked. I look at Villa's attack, and you could probably make an argument that in terms of depth of quality is maybe the best in the league right now. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. So look, Chelsea are going to have to start performing, and that begins tonight. Chelsea's performance levels have got to get back to what they were mid-September to mid-December 2024. And if they do that for 2 or 3 games, I can only speak for myself here, my mind will change. But right now, based on their performances, I can't see Chelsea getting into the top 4 or qualifying for the Champions League. There's too many sides that are better. If, though, they get that sort of September to December form back, then it's possible. If Palmer starts scoring, Jackson starts scoring. If Sancho can get some goals, and Neto can actually deliver some output, then it could be different. But you can't ignore the past 3.5 months form, the fledgling nature of the manager. I just think, then you've got to look at what all Chelsea fans call out. Sanchez in goal. The defense needs work. I just think if you ignore all these things just to pat a Chelsea fan on the head and say, oh, you'll be okay, I just think you're being disrespectful to them as individuals, as people. I'm not going to blow smoke up their arse and go, yeah, Chelsea, you'll be fine, because there's no evidence to suggest they're going to be now this season. So look, it's going to be a really interesting one.
I said it a couple of weeks ago on the show, actually, when we were talking about Chelsea last, and I posed the question: how much of that start to the season was down to all the work Pochettino being putting in at the back end of last season when they were on that really good run of form? The fact they ended the season as the 3rd best team in the league on form. How much of that was just muscle memory of that? And the moment that sort of wears out, it becomes down to Maresca to make the decisions, and all of a sudden the form's gone out the window. I said at the time Maresca was a bit of a weird appointment. He should have stuck by Poch. Poch left for whatever reason. And now you're just seeing a manager who he's showing his inexperience more than anything. Because in moments of crisis, in moments of turmoil, he's making incorrect decisions. He's making weird moves. He's trusting players that should be taken out the lineup. He's making changes where it doesn't necessarily need to be made. Obviously, at least now Chelsea fans are acknowledging that injuries are a problem in the season. It's only taken until March and for the striker to be injured. But they now understand that teams have injuries. But it's how you deal with them. You have to adapt. You have to make adjustments. I can't help but feel that since December, since teams have started to defend Chelsea in a little different way, I feel like the likes of Palmer, who started the season so well and was in conversations for being the best player in the Premier League in October, he's ineffective at best now. And this is all...
Is that down to poor form, though? Or is that down to Maresca's system? Because it's not like he isn't getting in the area to score goals. It's not like he isn't having clear-cut chances. So is that a Maresca problem or is that a Palmer problem? Or both?
I think it's both. I feel like the team around him isn't... I think his finishing hasn't been as good. So the chances that he's getting that he might have scored last season, he's not scoring now. But he is still creating chances for others that aren't getting put away. And the bigger problem, he's also not being able to create certain chances that he was creating last season because people aren't making the correct runs. There's no confidence. There's no belief. The changing system has changed the attacking dynamics. I said it 3 weeks ago. Chelsea are a cup team. Chelsea do not have the players in their squad at the minute to play the football Maresca dreams of playing. He has players who are quick, direct, and lack a brain cell at the best of times. And Maresca wants to play this slow, controlled, nice football where you play through the lines. Pedro Neto can't do that. Madueke can't do that.
Yeah, I think where you're pulling on, I think there are some Chelsea fans that have come to the realization that some of their players this season are just not there. Don here says, why does every Chelsea debate come off of what Don's opinion is? Well, that's not really true. We were just talking about one specific thing. And David also says, Terry, put my opinion across. I speak about your opinion quite a lot, David. And I actually respect your opinion highly because you don't claim that you are right and you know ball and you're this and that. You just say that you understand what they're trying to do. They're buying loads of young players and they want them all to mature together at the same time. You're not saying it's a guarantee to work. You're also not saying it's a guarantee to fail. You're just willing to be patient for that to blossom. That's fair. What we're discussing really is the need to win tonight and what will happen this season. So that's why I suppose your opinion hasn't come into this, because I know what you will say. Well, let's just keep moving in the direction that we've set out to do, which is fair. But that's what you want to happen, David. I think in reality, if you guys end up coming 6th, 7th, or 8th, I think there could be carnage this summer, especially if you're not going out and buying more experience. Because I know you, David, don't mind that per se. I'm not saying that you do, but I'm just talking about there are already protests about what's going on. And it's a crazy one. It really, really is. Give us your thoughts and feelings on Chelsea's situation. Jaws, welcome to the show, mate. Thanks for coming on. I really, really do appreciate it, buddy. David at least makes sense. Don is egal levels of deluded. Oh, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say he's if
I don't think we should even refer to Don as a gal, because I think that's disrespectful to a gal. Don is in his own level of it's Donluisonal should be his name, because Don's the first person to tell you I told you so when he's got 1 out of 50 opinions correct. That's what Don does. He get 1 out of 50. Well, I told you that I was right about that one. And
he did it to me the other day with Fernandes. Fernandes scored a couple of goals for Argentina again, or had a couple of good assists. And he goes, what have you been saying about Fernandes? Okay, he's been good, but let's see it more consistent. And
he'll continue to. I think that the other day was the first conversation we had when Don's actually been a bit more, realistic about his team and Chelsea's chances going into this game.
Do you know? I think it is with Don, right? And I love you, bro, but I'm going to say this: if Don had a higher pitched voice and a North American accent, I think Don sometimes gets away with some of his takes because he sounds like the rest of us. He's from London. He sounds, I think Gal gets a bad rap because he's Canadian, he's got a Canadian accent, and because he's softly spoken, if that makes sense. I just feel like those things play into it. But look, Don's got a lot of things right. What I love about Don is the way he words things. He honestly, I hope he's doing very well in his profession he says he does recruitment, means you sell people jobs. It's sales, right? He must be amazing. He does these brilliant things. I'd pick Gabriel. I'd pick Colwell over Gabriel in a combined 11 with Arsenal. But specifically because I think Colwell and Saliba would flourish together. I don't think Colwell is better than Gabriel. He words it very, very well.
There's always an out in the take. There's always a way you can claim.
If you are ever putting a contract together and you want a get out clause that's hidden, get Don to write it for you, because he is the master at the get out clause, bruv. He's gonna have no problem if he ever gets divorced. He ain't losing a penny, Don, because it'll all be tied up. It really, really will. He's brilliant there. He really is. But you call him Donluisonal. My favorite name the Terrace have for him is Condom.
Yeah, I've seen that one. The condom.
I like that one. I like it. I like it a lot. The game tonight, though, George. The game tonight. How are you feeling going into this as a Spurs fan? What does the approach have to be from a Tottenham perspective to get a positive result?
It's funny, isn't it? Because if you just listen to Ange, you just go out there, you play some attacking football, and we'll see if we'll be able to get the winner. That's pretty much easy.
Why haven't you done that all season, George? If it's that easy, why have you been doing that all season?
I don't know, innit? He seems like he's given up the tactical talk. He's gone down to the old school Sunday league. just boys, go out there, put your best efforts. Let's just give it your all, and you're gonna get the job done. One of them ones. And for me,
as he pulled out you just play with a smile on your face, go out there and enjoy yourselves.
He's getting there. He's getting to the Ollie place. Like, he's really getting there, because there was even comments that come out that was extremely worrying. That he was just like, yeah, I'm sure Spurs can find a better manager than me. Like, I'm sure they'll find some suitable candidates. Like, he's just out there, lost his damn mind. He doesn't want. You can tell his head's gone. So for me, when I look at this game, there's no hope in Spurs winning. It isn't because it's Chelsea. I think I'd look at unless it's a team that's below us, and let's have it right. There's only 3 or 4 teams below us. So every team above us, I don't see Spurs beating. At this moment in time, although Chelsea are bad, and a lot of people have highlighted how bad Chelsea have been, we are going to their stadium. We're going to their home ground, a ground that we've won, I think, once in like 25, 30 years. Stamford Bridge is never a pretty stomping ground for us. But away from that, we have no Kulusevski. Not really too sure how the back line's going to line up, because there's been no clear indication as to whether Danso's back. How fit is Van de Ven? We don't know. So it's going to be interesting to see how the back line lines up. But then even with that, I think with Spurs, even when we have some of these players coming back, defensively, we're just a mess. We're a mess defensively. So I can already see that Chelsea's front line is going to cause us some problems. In front of goal, they're not good. The actual goal mouth and putting the ball in the back of the net, they miss a heck of a lot. But at the same time, creating those chances, Chelsea are going to do that. They are going to break down our back line. So I expect this game to go, be maybe entertaining from a neutral standpoint, because it might be a bit more end-to-end. It might be a bit messy, chaotic. Spurs welcome that. We create games to have chaos, but at the same time, I don't expect this going in our favor. I do expect Chelsea to probably get the winner. Luckily, if we do, we might get a draw, but I don't see us winning. I'll just be honest. I don't think we're winning this game.
Yeah, it's a hard one for me, because I said I want Chelsea to win, because I want to stay in 13th, For me, down there at the bottom, I don't want Spurs going above us, because you know what, right? It's one of those things. My season has been as painful as it can be, really, even though I'm actually quite optimistic about what I'm seeing at the moment. We just need better players. And I know that's like an opinion that you get. The meme of the guy with all the knives around his neck? I don't feel like what I'm saying is even controversial. I watched this against Forest, and I was like, oh, we just had some better players. And I never think that's a bad place for a team to be in, where you're like, it looks good, but you need better players, rather than there's being... When Ten Hag was struggling with us, it was just, look at the system, look at the holes. But I do want Chelsea to win tonight, for me, Man United. However, from a top 4 race perspective, it needs to be a Tottenham win for me, because I just feel that I feel that, because it isn't even a top 4 race, it's a top 5 race. And Forest look like they're going to do it, because they just keep picking up these wins. But you never know. Bournemouth have fallen off recently, but they could turn it round. There's 8 games left. Newcastle just, again, seem to keep winning. And you actually look at their 2 goals last night, Newcastle. Firstly, I've got to say, everybody bigging up Tonali's goals really pissed me off. I feel like an old man.
Good.
It was a cross. And someone said to me, who was he crossing to? I went, well, there was a player in there, and I think it was Bruno Guimaraes, was making a run from deep. That's who he was aiming for. And listen, it's a fluke, but everyone's talking about goal of the season. And the other goal, I was so bitter watching it, not towards Newcastle, about my own life and club. I mean, when was the last time a ball got crossed into a Man United player and the centre-back who's going to clear it slips and falls over? But I suppose from a top 4 point of view, that everybody like win a couple, drop a couple. I think it's going to be an exciting end to the season, because the title race is over, relegation's done, so it's going to be exciting. So please, I want Chelsea to win for Man United, but if they don't, I think it's brilliant for the top 4 race. I really do.
Thing is, as well, for me, Forest play us at Villa Park on Saturday. If we beat Forest on Saturday, they're 6 points from us. Yeah. And all of a sudden, Forest are looking over their shoulder a little bit. And then that brings Man City and Newcastle and Chelsea closer to Forest as well. So, like you said, it can be, and I think it is going to shape up to be sort of that last day of the season vibe of who goes and qualifies top 4. But on terms of Chelsea, the only hope that I have maybe for Spurs is tonight is Maresca, obviously... Fans, from my understanding, find obviously Maresca's football quite dry, quite painful, quite dull. You've had this long anticipated wait from international break. I'm not expecting Chelsea to come out firing from the blocks and getting people, the crowd on their feet behind them. But I've just looked at some of their recent results. Basically, since February, Chelsea have only had a 1-goal win margin since the start of February. They're not in terms of where they've either won. They're not blowing teams away and apart. And I just think maybe, I know Ange wants to come out attacking, but is there a chance really that actually if Spurs can stay in the game for 45 minutes, at least in that first half, and that attacking football comes in the second half, maybe there's a chance and a 1-goal swing.
The problem there is you're relying on Tottenham's defence to not be Tottenham's defence and concede lots of goals like they have done this season. I mean, Chelsea's recent form isn't great. Tottenham's recent form is even worse than not great. So it's like the only reason I give Tottenham a 5% chance is Robert Sanchez will be starting in goal for Chelsea. So no matter how well Chelsea play, there is always the chance that he just chucks one in his own net or puts one on a plate for Solanke. But if Jackson's back like he's apparently supposed to be, then Chelsea's one of their bigger problems is solved because they actually have someone in the box who will create space for people on the edge of the box to shoot. Because right now, Chelsea just have a weird problem where everyone wants to be outside the box.
You know what it is? The way Spurs win tonight is a combination of how they beat City earlier on in the season and how they took the lead against Chelsea. I think if they press early against Chelsea, you may force a mistake because they've made a lot. But then what Spurs have got to do, and they've done it 4 or 5 times this season brilliantly, become compact and hard to beat. I think you did it against Brentford a few weeks back. It was like, so that's what the approach has got to be. They've got to try and score first by forcing a mistake or opening Chelsea up. The one thing with Spurs, I think you could go up against any team in the world and create chances. But it's about converting them and then becoming compact. If you score the goals and then leave the game open like a basketball game, I just think if you guys have a shootout for 90 minutes, Chelsea, they'll just win. It's because you've seen that's why you're 14th. Like, is that too much?
No, I don't see it happening though. I don't see the change happening. I think even one of the damning things in Jed Spencer's interview is he highlighted that, if Spurs go down playing the way Ange wants us to play, then Ange don't mind. He'll just sit there and say, it's my fault, lads. Like, he'll just do one of those on. So he's never going to fault the players for changing their minds or trying to get defensive in the game. He just wants them to play his football. And he's so, and even when we lost that game to Liverpool, the 4-0, he used the fact that, look, I tried to play different football and it didn't work. And he throws it back in our face. So I don't see it going any other way.
We have a debate we're going to do later on that. And I didn't even tell the audience about it, where we're going to talk about performance versus results. And I think that's a very key part there around a manager just being happy as long as the style of football is being played versus results and the balance around that. But that's coming later in the show, people. Give us your score predictions on the game tonight. We'll go to Henry first. What do you think the score is going to be, mate?
I mean, Tottenham-Chelsea. Chelsea-Tottenham's always a very good game. I mean, this season it was 7 goals in it. In the other game, you get the Battle of Bridge, the Cucurella, Avenues Airport. I wouldn't surprise me if we lost something like 4-2 or a 1-0 defeat. I don't think Tottenham will get anything from this game. There's rumours that it will be Romero and Davis in the back line and Brennan Johnson's going to start. This isn't the sort of game you start Brennan Johnson in. You start Odegaard, Tell and Solanke. Actually, wide players that can do something. I'll probably go. I said 1-0 earlier on Don's channel this week. I'm gonna say a 2-1 Chelsea. Like my heart says we'll get a draw. My head says we're going to give up too many chances. I honestly think the entire season is on that Frankfurt game. I think right now Andrew will be thinking, we're not going down, right? Just focus, get everyone fit for that Frankfurt game and don't worry about Chelsea or Southampton. I expect us to make 10 changes against Southampton. 10 changes. Whatever side Neto or is on tonight, just put Spence to deal with him. But it's the perfect game if you're Palmer and Jackson, isn't it? It's the perfect game because we will give up countless chances like we always do, and we're going to be relying on Vicario to make a couple of worldy saves like he always has to. And then, what is it, Palmer 9 games without a goal? I don't condone any sort of gambling, but tonight there is going to be very good odds on Cole Palmer for a shot on target. So, I'm going to go 2-1 Chelsea, mate. I'm not confident. Just get me to 10 o'clock
That is
and
the
get me
longest
to,
answer to a score prediction I've ever had in my life, bro.
I
Thanks for
didn't get to
getting
say
there in
anything on the
end.
game, so I kind of did two little things there at once.
Okay. Well, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't get to speak. Oh.
But yeah, 2-1.
There we go. What you saying, Josh?
I'm going to go with a 1-0 Spurs away when you talked me into that compact Brentford sort of type performance of a low block. I just don't have some more hoping for me. But yeah, I'm going to go Chelsea don't show up at the bridge tonight, and it's a 1-0 Spurs win.
George?
I'll go 1-1 with me being optimistic. That's an optimistic one.
Okay. Tommy boy?
Just quickly, how am I seeking attention?
By putting
We're
yourself
going
on
to lose a game.
by putting yourself on camera and giving opinions. We're all attention seekers. Every YouTuber is an attention seeker. We just all got to. I always love it when people say, Terry, you only make content to get views. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, I just talk to the fucking mirror. Do you know what I mean? What the fuck? Anyway, sorry. Go on, Tommy boy. What you saying, mate?
You've all picked boring games. I'm gonna go like 5-4. Just a pure mad shootout. Both teams' defenses are crap. Both teams have got Vicario's not as mistake prone as Sanchez, but both teams actually have attackers that when they're on the day can score. So I just got like it's the perfect mix, and I'll go just for a laugh because I want to see Chelsea finish below where they finished last season and see the reaction throughout the summer. Tottenham 5, Chelsea 4.
Woo!
5 goals at the bridge.
Can you imagine? I would love a game like that tonight. That'd be entertaining. But I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go 3-2 Chelsea. I think 3-2 Chelsea. I think Chelsea will win. I would like to see Tottenham do it for the top 4 race, though. It would be interesting. Hit the like button, please, people, if you have not done so already, and get yourselves subscribing. Before we move on, I wanted to do a super chat because it'd be hard to come back to it later. But I don't know if it's for Josh or what, but it says here that Rashford and Asenio are playing well because they are on borrowed time. They have to perform or they will be cut. Aston Villa cannot afford their wages. Do you think that Asenio and Rashford are only playing well and hard because they're looking for moves away from Villa because you can't afford them? Or is that a bit of a salty take?
That sounds like whoever he supports didn't have a good January transfer window. Because all you hear from the Aston Villa players, Unai Emery, they don't actually talk about these two's abilities. They actually talk about the body language. They talk about how happy they look, that they've got a smile on their face, that they look relaxed. You know, a lot of the England boys have said how happy they are to see Rashford just back to himself. There's a bit of a relaxed approach, smile on his face. Technically, Rashford, is probably playing for a contract, maybe not at Villa, but elsewhere. And Asenio, he's playing for what I would say is I think he's here to look to come to Aston Villa. In terms of the wages, it's not true about what Villa can and can't afford. I think Aston Villa can afford Asensio's wages, which we have. We've been paying the full amount from PSG. We're paying 75%, I believe, of Rashford's wages, a high end of it. I just think people are annoyed that Villa managed to have the best January transfer window. And another thing of it is since both of them have came into fruition, Villa have skyrocketed, and it hurts. It hurts rival
The thing
fans
is
to see
about
that.
that, Josh, though, you are being disingenuous and you are just saying things for the sake of saying things. Because if it is actually true that you can't afford to pay their wages, you pay 96% on your wage to revenue ratio currently, which isn't sustainable enough, and you will be hit with PSR if you sign them up.
George, what you're not realising is there is a plan at Villa this summer. Big names will get moved on, so more come in. We let go of Douglas Luiz and Moussa Diaby. Okay, we let go of them last summer to confine and to have this evolution of what we need.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you now, I expect to see probably 3 big Aston Villa names go in the summer.
What is
to
big
make way
to you?
I'm talking Ollie Watkins, and you may not, and you may laugh at that being a big.
No,
but tell me a number.
that is a big.
Yeah,
Gone. Watkins would be
the next one for me is probably we're going to cash in hard on Leon Bailey. Again,
That's
I think they'll be.
move.
I think when you talk about
20
wages,
million, 25 million max.
Watch this space on Bailey in terms of wages and that. And then the big one for me is we somehow got a really sick link with Saudi Arabia. That's what I'm going to say. We've managed to sell 2 players to Saudi Arabia. There's a big link coming on a player who I really don't want to see leave. but I think it works out there, which is Luca Dean at left back, who again for me has kept Ian Matson out of the team for a while. It's all about freeing up the wage bill. It's about creating the confinement PSR, tweaking what we have to, and freeing up that wage bill. So I actually think that, in terms of wages,
neither of these players you mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong, because my understanding would be maybe Ollie Watkins is on a 150k a week wage, maybe. And you could probably know the specific numbers, but none of them are on the wages that Asenio or Rashford are on. Near, like Rashford's on 250 to 300k, and Asensio's on close to that as well.
We can't pay Rashford's. That's a given. Hence why I'm pretty certain to say Rashford won't be a Villa player next season. We aren't going to pay the 40 million asking price Man United want, and Rashford had to take a wage cut. However, the Asenio one for me, 15 million euros is the touted price for Asenio. Plus, again, his wages, I think we can cover. So, yeah, the thing is, unlike maybe other clubs, I genuinely believe in my owners.
Euros.
Say it again.
Did you say 15 million euros? That's
15 million. Absolutely. 15 million euros is the reported price of
12 million quid.
Yeah, absolutely. But he's not wanted at PSG, and I can't wait for him to knock out PSG in the Champions League as well, because of the disrespect they showed him. There's that one. But,
I actually think you could get Rashford. I think, but when I'm saying it, I think it depends on who else comes in for him, and I suppose it's a bit bittersweet. If he keeps scoring goals now and keeps assisting and keeps helping you create, I think then I'm not going to say Barca because they look financially fucked. Do you know? I just keep thinking of Heavy D on AFTV. We're fucked. That's how they are, right? They are done, right? But I do think that if he keeps scoring and creating, I think maybe, and please, I don't mean these words with any disrespect, a bigger club financially will come in. But if that doesn't happen, and he doesn't fancy the international teams that come in, he's enjoying himself, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that, because I don't think Rashford is this greedy, nasty, narcissistic person people make him out to be.
No way.
I think if you guys said, look, we can't afford to pay you 250, 300 grand a week, what you might be able to offer him is 150, 200 grand a week with incentives. If you score this amount of goals, or if we win these trophies or get back into the Champions League, we'll pay you bonuses. I don't think that's beyond the realms of possibility. You've already agreed the 40 million fee with Man United. It's based. I got into a row with a Villa fan over this. So that's only if Rashford agrees to join you. Otherwise, so it's there. But I don't think, as I say, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility. But yeah, I think they're both playing very, very well. They're both excellent players. And my little take on Asenio, I think a bit like Philip Coutinho. I just think he's made for English football. I think he is just going to be a player who thrives here, and I think you guys have got to steal. Terry, I have an apology for players that leave Man United and succeed. If every kid from a school turns out bad and the few that leave are successful, that school should get investigated and probably shut down. Look, Josh, you've watched my show for years. I've already said before, the idea that any one singular player has ever been the problem at Manchester United is ridiculous. When you have no club philosophy, when you have no consistent plan that needs certain profiles of players, and you create these Frankenstein squads, this is what happens. Just look at Nottingham Forest and where they are. This didn't start when they appointed Nuno. They've been building to this for 8 years. And Josh could shoot me down here. I haven't even done that much research into Villa. But the idea that Villa had become this team purely because they appointed Unai Emery, that they've been on the road to this since they got relegated. So when people talk about, I know people hate the words phases and rebuilds and club structures, but Villa have been working towards this for a long time. The only real mistake Villa have made, I think, in the last 5-6 years was appointing Gerrard. But because they had a club plan, all they had to do was sack him and bring someone better in, and they carried on progressing in the right direction. So
Stevie G got Aston Villa Europe, thank you. He played a part in that season.
Okay. Yeah. So Josh, yes, I don't hold the players to the same level of account as other people have done. Doesn't mean they were all right for Man United or good enough. It's just if you bring a player like Anthony in, who's playing for a team like Ajax with their brand of football, and then you want him to come in and play in a more pragmatic side in a more physical league, of course there's going to be problems. Had Ten Hag been implementing his style of football from day one, because we needed a rebuild at that point, I think Anthony might have done a much better job at Man United. So that's why, again, I'm with you. I don't blame the players per se. I'm not surprised to see so many of our players at exit do well. Ironically, the ones that don't do well when they leave are always the ones that Baller FC love. There is something in that as well. Typically, the ones who Baller FC wank off over tend to not do so well when they leave.
The Player FC guys at United, I never see them move on, and then all of a sudden it's, oh, wow. They're smashing it at another club. It's always like, no, it's okay. He's at Athens. He's bouncing back from an injury.
Martial done okay, to be fair with you, but Martial had fans in all camps. I'm talking more like Donny van de Beek. Legitimately, I still think there's United fans that think he's better than Bruno Fernandes.
Is he now?
Girona.
Is he?
Yeah,
Wow.
on the bench. He's on the bench. He's on the bench in Girona. Tonali admitted it was a cross to Keith Dowie. Marky, listen, bro. I mean this with all due respect. When the goal went in, I went, oh, quality. Like, it's a fluke. All that wound me up was idiots online saying, bruv, that was a goal of the season. That was amazing. I'm sitting there like, you can just tell who hasn't played football before. You can just tell. But you might enjoy watching it. If you've never played, it was a fluke. And I knew he would admit it's a fluke. He's an honest guy. It's just a fluke. We all know it. Anyone who knows football knows that was a fluke. Speaking of football, Mohamed Salah supposedly close to signing a new deal with Liverpool, Tom. Seen with a film crew on the Albert Dock doing something. Liverpool fans are hoping for this image to be a real one. This is, of course, AI generated. Thank you, Elon Musk. But do you think he is going to sign a new deal with you? Santi's reported it. Sasha Tavernieri's reported it. Today, the Italian press of all countries started reporting on it being close. The Athletic have said he's been spotted with a film crew. Do you think it's the news is going to come out soon that he's signing a new deal? And if so, why are they not just announcing it?
Your guess is good as mine as to why they're not announcing it if it's done. I don't think that Albert Dock thing was anything to do with the contract. I don't know why we'd announce a player's new deal at the Albert Dock. There's absolutely zero significance to the football club in that with that. That's more likely something to do with one of the sponsors or something. But I do think we'll get the contract done. I think the whole Trent situation and the fact that he's probably going to leave means that the club are kind of backed into a corner really, and have to keep Salah and Van Dijk because you can't lose all three in one go. So I think both Salah and Van Dijk will sign, and it's big for us. It's big for the manager. It's big for the squad because yes, the last 3-4 games, Mohamed Salah has not been as good as he has been this season. But Mohamed Salah has still been the best player in the Premier League this season, arguably the best player in the world this season. He's on course to have a record-breaking Premier League season. By all accounts, the greatest individual season on a statistical basis. You need to keep that around, especially while he's there.
Stat merchant.
Yeah.
No, I'm just glad he added that in there just to make sure he actually knows what he's talking about. Tom knew to add that little caveat at the end. Doing the Don thing, it's smart. It's smart.
Hey, look, I'll sit there and say it's the best individual season ever. He's dragged a team that was predicted to finish 6th and below Manchester United to a title by 12 points and could
Predicted
be on course
by who?
really good. Go look at all the pundits, man. Go look at all the pundits.
Do you know what Liverpool need? Did you ever see the Athletic Bilbao captain who announced at half-time he was signing a new deal? Have you ever seen that video?
Mm-hmm.
If you're beating Arsenal at half-time at Anfield, and all of a sudden it goes quiet and you hear a microphone and Salah just walks out onto the pitch and addresses all the Liverpool fans, that for me would be the best way possible.
I think it would be better if he does it at the end of the season. He does what like Schweinsteiger has done when they all thought he was leaving Bayern, and right at the last game, end of the last game, says, you know what, guys? I'm not fucking leaving. Jordan Belfort. I'm not leaving.
I would just quite like it. There was plenty of people that predicted it. Just Google it. Google season predictions this season. But I would just quite like it to be announced now. I'm sick and tired of the whole circus and all the conspiracy theories that we had that they've signed, but they're trying to protect Trent, this, that, and the other. No, sign it, announce it, give me the confidence boost, and then selfishly I can go, oh, let's see what Trent says now. But the main thing is just so I can see that we've got the contract done and sorted, and I know that the club are going into next season planning with having Mohamed Salah there, and. I don't think Mohamed Salah will put in another season like this where he's on course for a 30-20 season, 50 goal contributions in the Premier League. I don't think Mohamed Salah next season gets 50 goal contributions. But if Mohamed Salah's getting me 35 goal contributions, and I'm getting a striker in.
30.
Yeah, or 30, and I'm getting a striker in who, instead of Darwin Núñez's 5 goals, gets me close to 15, maybe even 20, because he's got Salah creating. And I get, another attacker in, maybe someone who can go off the left to rotate with Gakpo. All of a sudden, I don't need Salah to be putting up 50. Salah's had to put up 50 because, there was a graphic that came up before the derby yesterday. I don't know if people saw it. The run our forward line are on in terms of goals. Diaz has 1 in his last 18. Jota has 1 in his last 11. Núñez has 1 in his last 14. Or 1 in his last 10, sorry. And Gakpo has 1 in his last, or none in his last 5, but he's been injured a lot. Salah has had to drag this team on his back. If we get him the correct support pieces around it, I don't need him to be putting up 50. I can have him being more relaxed, getting 30. And all
Do you think you will get the right players?
I don't think we can get the wrong players. I don't think you can do much worse than what we've got.
True.
But is it going to be like Issa? I don't think it's going to be
I
Issa,
don't
for
like
example.
how you're trying to paint that story now, Tom, because at the start of the season,
What
it wasn't,
story?
we've got one of the worst attacks or our attack's not that good. I remember when I threw out there,
Mhm.
I remember being on the show and everyone was calling me out when I said, Spurs attack's not like that far off. I think when you look at it for players, I think it's just as effective as Liverpool's. People went crazy. You remember they were going mad. They're going, what do you mean? And now we're seeing that Liverpool's attack literally relies, maybe not the actual build-up. So we're going to go on to performance and results, but the actual end up is it relies on Salah. Without Salah's attacking contribution this season, you'd be so much further from where you are. The goals just prove that, obviously, goals and assists. Your other players are so patchy, like you said there, that they're only good in like a little month period. Diaz will have a great month. Gakpo will have a great month. Núñez will have a great 2 games.
Gakpo's not patchy. The other 3, yes, but Gakpo's not patchy.
I think
gave me like
Gakpo's
4
been
months.
better this season. He's definitely been better. He's steadily improved. He's a young player, so naturally, he's under slot. His game's gone up a level, but I still don't think it's enough for you to say, yeah, we can rely on him outside of Salah. If Salah's not there, you can't be like, yeah, Gakpo is going to be the guy to get us goals. He was doing it again. I'd say December, January.
He did have a really good record before his injury against Everton. I think he'd scored in like 9 home games in a row. So like he was doing between like end of October to when he got injured. He was the guy that you were looking at. If Salah wasn't scoring, it was Gakpo. If Salah was getting an assist, it was to Gakpo type thing. So those two are kind of like the exceptions. It's your Diaz, who went 4 months without a goal. Núñez, who is Darwin Núñez, and we all know about him. And Jota, who has struggled with injuries so badly this year, and when he's come back, has struggled to adapt to the role that we've played him in for most of it. And when he's just had a really poor season by his standards.
Looks like he's lost his pace. He looked like he was a fairly quick player. I was watching him last night, and I thought, like, he looks like he's lost a yard of pace.
Who?
Jota.
Well, that's what happens though when you have the volume of injuries that he's had. The problem is at some point your body just. I always remember Fernando Torres, one too many hamstring injuries, and he came back. And the fact Chelsea paid 50 million for him, I know he scored one of their most famous goals in history in that semi-final, but they never had the Torres that was originally at Liverpool that they paid 50 million for. Michael Owen went through it. It wasn't after the first hamstring. I think it was the second hamstring went. And I know medical science has got better since then, but Jota has just had too many injuries, and he probably needs a long run of starting matches for a good few months to get that rhythm back. And one of the reasons why Arsenal fans saying, I just want Saka rested for the rest of the season, according to most sorts of physiotherapists and sports scientists, that's kind of the worst thing for him. You need your body to be in that rhythm of kind of playing. You look at a lot of the boxers who fall off early in their careers. They're the ones who don't live the life. They're the ones that in between boxing fights just stop training and stop exercising. And you get to a certain age and your body just can't handle it anymore. So, yeah, I'm not surprised to see that with him. True Blue also says, Tom, do you trust FFG to spend on those players you need if they offer Salah and Van Dijk the money?
Yes, because we're selling a lot of players this summer, and they can buy the players they want to buy with the money they get from sales. If you sell Núñez for the 60 million that we've been told we're getting, which is still ridiculous.
And who's giving 60 million for Noodles?
Saudi. They wanted to pay 75 in January. Any reasonable club doesn't give me more than 30, but for some reason the Saudis want him, so we'll get 60 for him. Diaz, even though he had a good game yesterday, I do think his time's up at the football club. You can get around 50 for him off someone. There'll be someone who's
this season, really, did you?
Yeah, we didn't really spend this season. We still got, we sold like some of the youngsters. I think even like Kelleher's probably going to go in the summer. You can get 25 to 30 for a solid homegrown keeper. We'll sell a couple more like squad players, get another little bit there, and then because we're not going to get Isak, and I know people are going to constantly go, "Oh, it's not done yet." We're not getting Isak. That money will instead buy like a 60 million quid striker, a 50 million quid left winger. And then I don't think we'll get a midfielder. And then you'll see us like try and get these opportunities in defence. Like Kerkez will probably happen because he's like 40 million. I keep seeing Jeremy Frimpong's name.
You're talking about Liverpool spending 200 million, which isn't far out of the realms, but it is unlikely.
I mean, if you're selling Nunes for 60, Diaz for 50, Kelleher for 20, Elliot could go. That was one I forgot to mention. Elliot for 25, 30. All of a sudden, you're getting that 200 million. It adds up very quickly just off of sales, and there'll always be a baseline budget that you've got.
Do you think that sort of the question I've got going around my head is, does Arne Slot have that prowess in the transfer window and market? Because you're talking about these finances, and I know it's very easy to go to Liverpool Football Club, and I completely see that. But I correct me if I'm wrong, but obviously in terms of recruitment wise of what Arnie's done, in his first 2 windows that he's had at Liverpool, though you could argue it's gone and won you a league title and he's kept the pieces together. Obviously, I think this second season, he comes under more scrutiny probably and more pressure than he faced in this first season. First season's a free hit. He's what probably I'd hate to say about Arne Slot is he's absolutely almost set himself up to fail next season. And as deep as that is, going to win the league in the manner which he's done, with what I would say, Tom, again, is probably Jurgen Klopp's squad. I still see it as a Jurgen Klopp squad. Arne Slot has put himself under immense pressure next season, I think. And I'm just wondering your opinion. Does he have that prowess and pull in the transfer window that he needs?
The good thing is I don't need to worry about whether my manager is good at identifying targets because he's not involved in that. We brought back Michael Edwards and we brought in his guys again. So they're the guys running it all. Arne Slot gets to say, yes, I want him, or no, I don't. But he's not the guy going, you know what? I liked Igor Paixão when I was at Feyenoord. I know you could get Bino Gittins, but I want my guy from Feyenoord instead. We're not doing the Ten Hag method.
I think the question, Tom, wasn't can he identify players? I think what Josh was saying, correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, is does Slot have the prowess, the pull, the sort of aura for when you try and sign the star players that you're after? Does he have the ability to help Liverpool pull them in?
Yeah.
He doesn't have the same pull that Jurgen Klopp did, 100%, but there'll be a pull to Arne Slot. I mean, players will want to look to play for the manager who's just went and won the league in his first season in the Premier League, And ultimately, it's going to sound a bit sad. We're not shopping in the superstar market, so I don't think we're going to be sitting there trying to battle these.
You're not coming down to Waitrose. You're not coming to Waitrose, are you? Where are you off to? Audi? Where you going? I like Audi, by the way. But Audi's pretty good. Good, especially their meat. But yeah, where are you off to? Where are you shopping? Poundland?
Whatever the German equivalent of Aldi is, that's where we'll be shopping.
Germany. It is fucking Audi, you idiot. They're German.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, we saw it. Yeah. Fuck's sake. But I just think we're going to continue to shop where we did the last time he was here. The last time Michael Edwards was here, you either get Premier League proven from mid to low table who got like the room to grow, or you go for Bundesliga and this, that, and the other. I don't think you're going to be like Isak. Don't think you're going to be seeing us go for him. I know that Joao Pedro's got 100 million quid price tag. We're not going to go for that. I think you'll be seeing us shop at the 40 to 60 million range again. And unless you're
going to be in the same market that we are, I think Tottenham and Liverpool in that sense are very
and that's a market we can dominate. That's a market where I'm quite confident that we can win that one.
You said that, George. That's we're similar in that sense. I love how you added that in that sense. Yeah, no, I hear you. It's going to be a very, very interesting one indeed. Just keep it on Liverpool for a moment, Tom. Tarkowski should have got sent off last night. Yes. The panel, we all agree Tarkowski should have been sent off.
I know where this is going.
That was disgusting.
I agree. Disgusting. Should be a red card. There should be a retrospective ban for me. He should be punished. Whoever it was, Peter Tierney, I think it was on VAR. He was basically protecting his friend and trying to hide behind the referee's call. I hate that shit. But there is a but here, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Does it now mean we can end these season-long debates that for both these tackles, Virgil van Dijk should have also been sent off? He does touch the ball first here, but then goes through and takes out the shin, nearly breaks the ankle, and then, of course, misses the ball, contacts the shin, goes down to the ankle on Onana. Both of these were heavily defended by Liverpool. Can we now just all confirm that they're all red cards? Can we just do that?
I mean, they weren't heavily defended by me. I think they're all red cards. I think I said that at the time.
You're the spokesperson for all Liverpool fans today, so I just want you to confirm they're all red cards, please.
Yeah, I think we got away with some of them, yeah. Even though one was back when James Milner was starting week in, week out for us, and we had to go that far back, yeah.
No, I'm only messing around and having a laugh with it. Like, I'm keeping the same energy. I am, and I just saw today the amount of Evertonians showing those videos. I was like, yeah, but you're actually confirming that it's a red card. It is what it is. But yeah, I still can't believe you got away with it, to be honest with you. I can't. But in fairness to Van Dijk, not in fairness, Van Dijk gets away with a lot, you know. Like this season, he's assaulted at least 3 people.
I think it goes back to... No, I think it goes back to a conversation I was had a few months ago about, I think certain players are targeted for these challenges. If that was Caicedo or Romero, that's an instant red because these are aggressive players. These are players you expect those challenges from.
You know, James Tarkowski's never had a red card.
No. Tarkowski's had plenty, but I just mean it depends on who the challenge comes from, is as to what players
without a doubt. Look at what the media has been doing to Lewis Skelly recently. They even did an article the other day where they said they were praising him, but they were saying that his secret weapon is his Jonah Lomu handoffs. And it's like Jonah Lomu's handoffs, the great late Jonah Lomu, they were vicious and they were violent in a as they say, a violent sport played by a thug sport played by gentlemen. To compare what like Lewis Skelly does when he holds people off to Jonah Lomu, it's again painting that picture of aggression. I guarantee if Lewis Skelly, you mentioned, Caicedo, Romero, if any of those players did what Tarkowski did last night, it would have been a straight red, no VAR involved whatsoever. Equally, some of the off-the-ball stuff, and I know that it creates the conversation that Van Dijk's done this season. Again, I just keep it 100. He got very lucky not to be sent off for what he did against Anthony Gordon, as an example. The way again, anyone who's played sport or done anything physical with other people, you can all just see that it's deliberate. I think that's the problem with a lot of these refs. I don't know how many of them have actually, like a lot of them give me sort of geeks that didn't get picked for sport at school. So do they actually understand what it's like on a football pitch, you know?
Let's go one further. I actually think that people, these ex-referees, Mark Clattenburg, Mike Dean, they've exposed the corruption of referees. Because what they've done is they've gone on shows like The Overlap, and you've got Clattenburg openly saying, I dislike Lallana, I dislike this player. As soon as you start showing that human side, which they all are, and start expressing that naturally a referee is going to be more inclined, I'm sure people absolutely hate Romero because, as you said, because they just look at this, you know, South American aggression. Maybe it seems unnatural in the eye. Emi Martinez, I know that he's hated because of his time wasting antics. Emi Martinez only needs to hold the ball now, and people say he's a time waster for a couple of seconds. But these semantics where they're trying to get popular in the mainstream media by trying to stay in jobs, which is fair enough. You know, technically, they're trying to create a pathway for themselves. But what they are doing is going to me, yeah, we are opinionated. We do have bias. We do dislike certain clubs, certain players. And these ex-referees are clearly not helping the modern-day referees right now who are in the game. You know, and we talk about David Coote of recent. All this is just it's quite systemic, I think, in that referee circle. And you're never going to break it.
I agree. And F Talks Football says this is a disgrace to not actually mention the actual tackle last night, but to mention old ones. We have mentioned the tackle.
We did.
And this is the problem. I had a little bit of a joke with it, which I think we're allowed to do on a podcast. But we're talking about, this is the thing I find with football fans. We are, as bad as the PGMOL and VAR is, I still think football fans are the biggest culprits in this, because we cannot put tribalism aside and have objective conversations. We are just not, and I'm saying we here, we are not mature enough as a collective to do it, because every Liverpool fan worth their salt knows that if what Van Dijk did to Kai Havertz, if what Van Dijk did to Anthony Gordon, and there was another one where he smashed through somebody, and I can't remember which game it was off the top of my head. If that was done to Mo Salah by an opposing centre-back, they would be screaming for a red card. And I just think the reason why the PGMOL get away with this is because all that tends to happen is Tarkowski does what he does. Liverpool fans are outraged. Everton fans defend it by finding ones that Van Dijk didn't get done for, but they take it seriously. And then it becomes two groups having a tribal fight. Loads of Man United, loads of people that hate Liverpool will sort of, they won't say anything publicly. They'll go, yeah, it was a red, but I'm not getting involved. And then the PGMO will just get away with it because it gets brushed under a carpet very quickly. And I felt all along that what we actually need to do on this is kind of come together a little bit. You know that famous picture of a blood and a crep, you know, where they've got the bandanas tied together? Like, there needs to be a little bit of that when it comes to the PGMOL. And until football fans learn to, like, I think we do this thing, don't we, of, if I admit that should have been a red card, it takes away the validity of the win. And if it's in a season where you win that trophy or you win that league, maybe people will say we didn't really deserve it, so I'm just going to fight for my team no matter what. And I don't think in reality that would ever happen, because everybody benefits from. I read a stat the other day about Arsenal. They've actually had more 50-50 decisions go their way this year than any other club in the Premier League. But they've also had some horrendous things go against them, or things that no one else has really been punished for as well. And it's about being balanced in these conversations. And in fairness to the Arsenal fan, to be fair, when we knocked them out the FA Cup, a lot of them did come on, and maybe it's because they lost that they did it, and you've got to ask that question. But they were like, yeah, I can't believe you guys conceded that penalty. The referee had an awful game, etc., etc. But we need more of that. You can have an objective conversation about a terrible refereeing decision and talk about which team deserved to win a football match, who played well, etc. But yeah, it's difficult. But yeah, look, on Tarkowski, to finish on what this comment said, 100% he should have been sent off. However, I just think Liverpool fans, again, you've got to have that energy the next time you get away with one. Otherwise, all you're doing is we're kicking the can down the street, and at some point, these problems are going to hinder you. And maybe it happens next time when a player gets badly hurt. Maybe next time the decision goes against you, it costs you points in the title race, or you go out of a cup competition, where maybe if we just, again, we've been moaning about referees forever in this country, but the one thing we haven't done is drop our tribalism with it. So why don't we try something different for once, see how it goes, see if we get better results. No harm, no foul. But there we go. Hit the like button, please, people. Make sure you are all subscribing to the Football Terrace. Oh, was that an April Fool's stat? Okay, fair enough. I didn't realize it was an April Fool's stat. I only read it yesterday, so there we go. It's probably shared by somebody else. If it was an April Fool's stat, then fair enough. Having said that, I still think, again, I still don't believe there's conspiracies against any individual clubs, just bad referees that have biases. There we go. Speaking of Arsenal, Gabriel, he's out. His hamstring is gone. He's going to be out for the rest of the season.
The third hamstring surgery they've had to have this season.
It is. Yeah, it's the third hamstring surgery that they're having. I've seen some people online state that this is due to players being overplayed, too much football. Or is this down to Arteta, the doctors, and the training? Like, what's to blame here, in your opinion, Henry?
I think you can blame the Saka one, because coming on like games and you're 3-0 against Preston and coming on against Bolton when he probably should have been rested. And of course you want your best player to play every single game, but I don't really see how the Gabriel one's on Arteta. Like, it's unfortunate, but then it's like every team in the league gets injuries. I mean, me and George have had more hamstring injuries than everyone on this panel combined this season, right? But the Arteta one is different because the intensity they play is completely different to, for instance, the Spurs. Our centre-backs are doing 25, 30-yard sprints every game, whereas they're really not, because they control games better than we do. But to say this is completely on Arteta and, you know, to put it into the other group of injuries they've had. I don't really subscribe to that. I think this one's just unfortunate. I mean, yeah, the third hamstring injury this season. The other one, Havertz got in a training session. I mean, that's not nowhere near the same intensity as a game, is it? That's just unfortunate. That's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But yeah, I thought I'd obviously being an Arsenal fan, I'd give my opinion on it. So I'm assuming you're going to give your opinion on it as well, Terry. But yeah, I don't think that one is is on Arteta.
The way you got to look at it is naturally we've been seeing with the amount of games there are, every team suffering. Hamstring injuries are like one of the most common injuries nowadays, especially in the Premier League. Like the intensity that all the teams are playing at, you're seeing so many hamstring surgeries happen. I think Spurs have had like 3 or 4 hamstring surgeries in the last 12 months as well. So I think it's very common at this moment in time. But there is a point of when a manager does have to take responsibility for his players' well-being. And there has been plenty of times, especially Saka, I would say, because I don't look at it across this season. I think Arsenal have been very lucky across the last 2 to 3 years when they was challenging that. Gabriel, Saliba, they all had minor injuries, Saka, but no one picked up a major injury in that time. In those years, similar to when Liverpool went on that run, they went a few years and you had your key players just there. But after that, once you get to a certain point, those players, their bodies are going to break down on them. Arteta hasn't helped when, he's playing these players against the likes of Preston, when they're 7-1 up against PSV, and he's continuing to use the likes of Gabriel and Saliba, knowing, do you know what, 7-1 up, and I get it's Champions League tie, but 7-1 up at our home ground. Maybe we can throw Kivior in there with a youngster or with a player that just needs some minutes, build up some confidence. So I think he hasn't helped the situation. I don't think it's fair to blame it on Arteta because injuries happen. It's part of the game. But he's definitely not helped the situation for Arsenal.
I mean, the Gabriel one, all the stuff that Arsenal fans have been saying is the reason why. It doesn't necessarily apply to the Gabriel one. Like, Arsenal have incredible defensive depth in terms of the sheer amount of players that can play centre-back if needs be. Sometimes it is just unlucky. A lot of muscle injuries are just a bit unlucky. Gabriel has played a lot of football, but you'd want him to play the football that he has done. It's just unfortunate. I feel like sometimes there's no grand sort of mistake or grand sort of ulterior thing. Sometimes you just get unlucky with a hamstring injury. Sometimes you get unlucky with a muscle injury. Saliba a couple of years ago, they got unlucky with that injury. Is it annoying that it's happened when it's happened? Is it annoying that it's the third this season? Yes, but I don't think the Gabriel one is the one where you're looking at it going, that's down to the manager. He's overplayed him. He's done this. He's done that. I think it's just, the Gabriel one and the Havertz one as well. There wasn't much you could do with Havertz. He didn't have that. That's when we look at the depth. The Gabriel one's just unlucky. You wouldn't have. I guarantee every Arsenal fan going into that game yesterday wasn't sitting there going, "Oh, we might need to take Gabriel out here. He might get an injury this game." Everyone's going, "No, you can play. He's in good form. Played a lot of minutes, you keep playing him." That's the difference.
Well, what are you saying about this, Josh? Because we've seen Big Ange get a lot of criticism for his injuries. Arteta's getting pelters, but we haven't seen, for instance, Pep Guardiola this season be blamed for the injuries they have had. So, why is it that the media and football fans at large seem to pick and choose which managers they blame for injuries and which ones they call it bad luck to? Like, how do you see the situation?
So the first thing I think of when I think Gabriel, I don't think Gabriel out for the season. I think of Gabriel out for Real Madrid because that's all Arsenal season is now. If we're being real, it's 2 games, right? That's Arsenal's season. So in the grand scheme of things, Arsenal not having him for the Premier League is no big deal, in my opinion. They're not going to drop out of the top 4. Their season is pretty much flatlined. But it comes to your point, Terry, of what is this? Is it that there is a problem with Arsenal in terms of behind the scenes maintaining injuries, rotation, and why is it that it falls on Arteta? Personally, as you said, there are certain narratives and agendas that fit a certain fan base. If you're trying to drive a manager out, some of the things you're going to look at is injuries. Oh, we don't look after our players well. Oh, the training methods are too vigorous. Oh, we've got a squad depth problem, which you can go to the board. But what you never hear is, for example, when I think of Arsenal, why don't we hear about the suspensions they've had this season? The ill discipline of the red cards, where they miss players for 3 games. Why don't we hear about that sort of narrative? And with Manchester City, for example, they don't have those problems. They solely have been relying on from the first minute of first game of the season is we've had no Rodri. That's why Manchester City potentially have had that sort of, off the hook card, would you say, with Pep? Because Rodri didn't even get to kick a ball for them. So already there's a sympathy card out for Pep Guardiola because it wasn't even in his hands. But do I think that, as people have highlighted in the chat, that Arteta's made some criminal decisions, such as playing Gabriel after being 7-1 up on aggregate? Absolutely. That's got to come down to a manager in some sense. But on the other sense, how outraged would Arsenal fans and neutral fans be if he didn't play and they did rotate? All of a sudden, Arteta doesn't take these competitions seriously. Arteta will never be that serial. Arteta will never be that winner. He'll never win trophies because he doesn't take these games important. We showed lack of respect. Do you know what I mean? So I think that it depends on your narrative of who you want to blame at your football club for your downfalls. Clearly, Tottenham fans want to blame Ange right now, so they're going to put all the pressure on Ange Postecoglou's management of said players potentially. And I feel the same with Arsenal fans. There is that section of the fan base who want to drive this manager out, so it's on him apparently of why these are happening.
Yeah, look, I think it's some great points raised by everybody, and I think that the word balance is needed in this because you have to look. There's a super chat that explains this very well. But it says prior to this week, there was 71 hamstring injuries this season where players have been out for over a month. There's 71 players or 71 incidences of players missing a month or more because of hamstring injuries. Arsenal having 4, it's not an outlier. So it's not as though Arsenal are getting more of these than anybody else. A season or 2 ago, and this happened again, by the way, to Standards FC's God, Real Madrid as well. Look at the volume of cruciate knee ligament injuries that were happening. And it felt almost eeringly weird, the volume that were coming through. And I can go back as far as when I was at school over 20 years ago, where every fucker for about 2 years broke their metatarsal. I can't remember the last time someone did it, personally, right? I just think there's a mixture of things here. The Saka situation, I feel, is carrying injuries for a while. Hindsight's lucrative. The club should have turned around and went, you know what? We're going to send you for the minor surgery or give you a period of time where you're not playing. We're going to rest you because your body is. I mean, he was getting laughed at for limping, but I think his body was just in bits. But a lot of athletes get like that. I think Kai Havertz and Gabriel's just happened. A little bit of fluke in there. Also, we cannot ignore the volume of football. When players maybe 3 or 4 years ago started complaining about the amount of games they were playing, a lot of us just said, loser mentality, I work 6 days a week, I could do it. But you're now hearing like the winners and the legends talk about it's ridiculous and there is no time for training. And what a lot of the experts and the doctors and the science behind it is saying is that because there's no time for training, the muscles are not getting time to recover properly. So it's game, rest, and that's bad for the muscles. And that's why there has been in the last 3 seasons, I think, exponential growth on muscular injuries. So I think there's absolutely areas where you can condemn and say Arteta and the Cronkies, you haven't built a big enough or good enough squad. Maybe that's why Arteta doesn't rotate enough. Arteta's got to rotate a little bit more. At the same time, I don't think you can ignore the wider issues in the game that are affecting multiple teams and just put it all on Big Ange, put it all on Arteta, put it all on Ten Hag when he was here for the injuries, because that's crazy. Plus, as well, sometimes some players are just injury prone. You look at Mason Mount. Is it Amarim's fault he's been out injured? No. Do I blame Ten Hag? No, because he was getting injuries at the back end of his Chelsea career. He's just a dud. We shouldn't have bought the geezer. Luke Shaw, he's always injured, like from our perspective.
When was the last time Luke Shaw played for United? It feels like every time he's about to come back from an injury, he tweaks it again.
It was February 2024. He hasn't played for over a year.
Terry, what do you put down Tottenham's injuries to? Because out of that 74. We've had 11 hamstring injuries this season.
So again, you guys play in a way where if you look at Van der Ven as an example, because of your high line and the amount of running he has to do, you sit there and you think to yourself, maybe that plays a part. Maybe that's played a part in it. I think the reason Big Ange gets so much criticism for his high line is because, one, you've seen players get injured in it. Two, it doesn't need to be that fucking high, and you'd probably look a better team if it was a little bit deeper anyway. So I think it's a combination of those two things. Arsenal's team often play with quite a high intensity, and that isn't me giving you that opinion. That's listening anecdotally to players that play against them that say the players just move, they run, they're here, they're there, they're everywhere. But that appears a different type of intensity in sprinting compared to your defenders in Andy's high line, because it's not as noticeable because it's within the game state. So that's where I think you need to look at it and go, well, football isn't going to reduce the amount of games. What Arsenal need to do is build a stronger squad so that Arteta is more comfortable rotating. So what you have to look for as football clubs are solutions to this. But what I would say, there seems to be a crazy number of hamstring injuries this season compared to normal. But as I stated right at the start of my little bit here, is I felt that was similar to cruciate knee ligament injuries a couple of years ago. And we have to be very mindful that we can't just blame one manager for his team getting loads of injuries and then actually give another manager sympathy and say it's okay to come 5th, 6th, 7th this year because you had injuries, mate, but you're a great manager. We have to at least try and be balanced in our analysis, I think. We're not Sky fucking Sports, do you know what I mean? We've got to try and do it better over here. A few comments here. Saka didn't even play in the 7-1. George, nonsense.
I didn't say Saka, I said Gabriel.
He's talking about Gabriel. Yeah, he was saying Gabriel there, to be fair. This here, I didn't see the super chat from George. It says, Arteta said a couple of weeks ago that due to the volume of games, there's barely training in between games. So the muscle doesn't have enough time to recover, which increases the risk of injuries. It's a football issue. Oh, yeah, it certainly plays a part. And I remember doing a show with Lee Gunner. Somebody was complaining about too many games, and I was in the same mindset as Lee. It's just like an average player at a club struggling, moaning, loser. And then I remember before he joined Man United, Rafael Varane started talking about it. And I'm like, well, you can't put Varane in that loser category. Do you know what I'm saying? And there's something in it when the stars of the game are saying there isn't enough rest time. What I would say, though, as well, is where I don't have sympathy with the clubs is City and Chelsea have just put themselves into another fucking tournament. Like Man United are going on a post-season and pre-season tour. So the clubs are also responsible here. We can't just say it's football doing it. Our clubs are committing to these things as well. So I think it's a bit of a mix.
I also think that clubs need to start taking strength and conditioning coaches more serious. I think that what you're talking about in terms of that rest game time, this is where your S&C coaches come in as a real viable asset of your team. And I've just interestingly looked at who's had the fewest Premier League injuries this season or missed the least amount of minutes. It's actually Nottingham Forest. I've just been having a little bit of a stalk of their strength and conditioning coach and their backroom team of strength and conditioning coaches. And it's they've got basically a five-a-side football team in strength and conditioning. They've got so many people in there, and the head guy has a really interesting background. I just think that's something. The science behind football is even bigger now with that, and I think it's such a key element of what you're saying because of the fixtures.
I mean, this season we've done really well in the injury front. Bar, a couple of guys, we always get injured. We've done quite well on the injury front compared to last year. And this summer, Arnie Slot brought in this Ruben Peters fella. We didn't have a guy in that sort of higher role before, but this year he's been there, and recovery's been different. And for the first time ever, Canati started over half the league games in the season. He's never done that before, but we've now got that this year, and he's only had one real layoff, and it was a contact injury. So it's like stuff like that. It goes a long way with teams, and the one thing that the only way I see it changing is if the football rule makers and the organizations, they're not going to get rid of the games because games make them money. So the only way it changes now is if teams are allowed to have bigger squads.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've already got. They've got big squads, 7 subs. They can make 5. Like they've made those changes. That it's more money being spent by the clubs. Like you think about Chelsea and City are going to bring in 50 to 100 million pound extra. Where some of that money should be going is making that squad deeper as much as better. so they can handle the games.
I think the bigger problem is the managers. Like we have 22, like most managers have 25-man squads. They just choose to work with 15 to 16 players because naturally with managers, there's only you can't focus on a full 25-man squad. It's hard to keep track of all these players.
No.
So they tend to keep a core group, and that's where the biggest issue is. You need to make your core group bigger and have more strength in depth. Because look at Arsenal right now with this Gabriel injury. We always talk about how great Arsenal are at the back and defensively that they're like got so many players there, but with Gabriel now out, you're looking around, you're like, oh, who is going to pair Saliba in there?
What do you think he should do? Because Arsenal fans obviously don't want to see Kiwior go into that position, but they've got Ben White. I know Calafiori might also be injured again, but they've got Ben. Oh yeah, he done his knee, didn't he? In international, he had that twist. But you've got Ben White and you've got Urian Timber. You've got a Declan Rice option. Surely those three, maybe Declan Rice being the last option, are better than putting Kiwior into that Real Madrid game. What do you guys think?
I think Timber's the best option. I think Timber would be the best centre-back option to pair up with Saliba, especially because he's played centre-back and left-back. He's constantly a presence at the back line for them, so he would know what positions to take up. I would be more worried if I was an Arsenal fan and put in one of the other players in there, like Ben White, who hasn't played centre-back for God knows how long. And I think he's a better right-back than he is a centre-back, as well as Declan Rice, who, again, hasn't played centre-back for about 8 years. You can throw him in the fold in a big game against Real Madrid. He's going to get caught out. Arsenal do play a high line too. They play an aggressive high line, and Real Madrid's usually a team that will force you to play onto them so they can catch you in a transition. I think if you play Declan Rice at the back and you get him turn and running when you've got Vinicius, Rodrigo, and Mbappe running at you, I don't think it's going to be as pretty. So I think you need to go with someone who's an out-and-out centre-back who's playing centre-back, and you go with Timber. He's a body in there as well, man.
He's good in there as well. I'd go Skelly.
He had a knock, not an injury. Apparently, he should be available for that game.
Right. Surely you'd go Skelly, White as your fullbacks, and then Timber and Saliba. But like George said, you're up against. I still call them the best team in the world. I don't care if Barcelona are clear in La Liga. When you got Vinny, Mbappe, Rodrigo, Jude, and then they can bring like Arda Güler, flipping Brahim Diaz off the bench, like they're absolutely stacked. So Arsenal have got to have. I mean, they can use this Everton game as a kind of a trial period because similar to Tottenham, their season in the league is done. You know, they're going to finish top four. Nothing's really. It's just this Real Madrid game, but yeah, I can just see Kylian Mbappe.
Is Calafiori still injured?
Yeah.
Because he would have been the one that I would
don't know where he is.
Because I think you've got to think about the dynamics of the back line as well. So Gabriel's out. It means you need a left-sided centre-back to come in. Unless you want to move Saliba onto the other side where I don't think he's as comfortable. So you need to find someone who's comfortable playing on the left of the back too. Now Ben White
Man United though. Timber played on the left.
Yeah, so Timber, good option. I'm trying to think of the other ones. Like Ben White hasn't. I think
the only other centre back options. I was talking with Arsenal fan Tierney. You can throw. He hasn't played a game in God knows how long. But
the thing is, though, I'm not an Arsenal fan, but I would trust Tierney much more at centre back, left back, up front. I'd have him anywhere over Kiwior. I just think Kiwior is. There was a moment in the game against Fulham. Was it Fulham they played? Fulham, where he got the ball comfortably. And I want to say, I know Traore, I think it was Traore. I know he's big and he's strong and he's quick. But the way he lost the possession to him and they nearly went on to score, it was just physical. He's a physical dweeb. He's a weakling, a professional. Like, if me and him shoulder bars, he'd knock me flying, right? He's a professional athlete. But I'm nitpicking about the elite end of the spectrum of our sport. And he is just not strong enough. Tierney is better. But putting Declan Rice in that role is better. For me, I agree with you. I would move Saliba into the left-hand side, put Timber on the right-hand side of that. And if Ben White's fit, play Ben White in the right-back position. They'll notice it. But for me, I think Ben White and especially Timber can maintain the quality for them. I don't think they should be. Look, they're not even favourites to win anyway. I don't think Arsenal fans should be overly panicking here. I think they can still be hard to break down and difficult to beat because that's how they're going to get through this tie. But let's have a few look at the few comments that have come through here. First one says, it's an interesting one for you, George. He says, that's what happens when you put Arteta's name in your mouth, Drizzy George. You choke. Fucking hell.
That is a fucking mental super chat. That.
Fucking hell.
That's
Anyway, yeah. I think that was an Arsenal. Yeah, a few people said that in the comments. Yeah, again, I read it on something yesterday, so yeah, I wasn't thinking because it was a second, but there we go. What about making the season longer?
I don't think the players would want that though, because if you're making seasons longer, it means they get less holiday time between seasons.
Plus Euros, World Cup, etc.
The real solution is to just stop the games, stop playing as many games, cut a competition out or something.
Sack the League Cup off.
Maybe. I know it sounds crazy.Maybe there is absolutely no reason in making this new Club World Cup, which expands over a month in the summer, which means certain players, and I'm not going to get a whole.
Yeah, but if the clubs want to participate in it, you then can't complain that you're going to get more injuries. If Man City, sorry.
So I'm sure you just said sack the League Cup off for a team like yourself.
In Spain, you've only got 3 competitions.
But you need a trophy. Like
yeah, of course we do.
Is that coming from an Aston Villa fan telling me I need a trophy? What do you need if I need a trophy?
Because no, you're not getting my point, George. Because I would never sit there and say bin a competition off. I want to be in every competition to try and win a trophy.
We're the only country out of the Netherlands, Portugal, the top 5 leagues that have 4 comps. Spain only have the Copa del Rey. Germany only have the DF Pacao, whatever it's called. The Coppa Italia in Italy. We play more games than any other country. The Premier League.
Spain has 2, doesn't it?
No, you have a competition where if you win the league against the winner of the Copa del Rey, and then it's called like
France have got 2. Portugal have got 2.
Yeah, but Portugal's is like similar to Celtics, where Sporting Lisbon go into the quarterfinals. Right, so you're not playing the early stages of it.
I get that. Do you know what it is, Josh? Why he wants to get rid of it? If I get your point, you want to win it. Henry, as a Spurs fan, views it as if it's one less cup competition they're in, it's one less thing they'll be disappointed about. So I think it's
that's exactly
that angle.
It's got to be the only angle, because you can't be dismissing trying to win silver each season.
If I had a magic wand, the way I would do it, I would actually make European competitions smaller. And I don't mean disrespect to the tiny European clubs that get in it, but you could make it 4 league level. You could keep the league, but it's 4 games and it goes into a quarterfinal straight away. You could reduce the amount of European games that need to happen, and you literally have it where you get the best teams go in there and do that across the board. Then what you could also potentially look at doing, if you really wanted to reduce games, is look at reducing how many teams are in the league. So maybe 3 get relegated, only 2 come up. So maybe you reduce it to maybe 19 or 18 teams in the league. I wouldn't actually just get rid of a competition. I would look to make them maybe a little bit smaller. But outside of that, it's very hard. It's very hard to reduce it.
Why are we limited to 25-man Premier League squads? When you look at I know American football is a bit of an extreme example, but the roster that you can have, why don't we just expand the amount of players you can register?
It's just going to expand the more academy players that are in the team that are not being used. It's not going to make a difference to them.
I think it will, though, because if you're stuck and limited to only being able to use 25 people in a Premier League squad, what happens if you can go to a 30-man squad? You sign 5, not academy players, but 5 more regular starters or squad players, which increases the depth, increases the rotation, and therefore enables you to compete.
That's my point, though, Josh. Clubs already have the option of having 25-man squads, but they will use 16 to 17 players, and the other 7 or 8 don't get an appearance all season. That's because the clubs choose not to do that, and also there's only 11 players that can play on the pitch. Naturally, you're not going to be able to have plenty of players that are on the bench that are going to be happy to just sit there and be like, yeah, we're going to take a pay and be a starter or rotational player. That's the issue. You can't attract those players to come and be in a rotational option.
I get that. I guess I'm going on the basis of what we're talking about. The trajectory is showing that injuries are going to be more and more recurring as
I think international is where the biggest problem is. You have to reduce these What is UEFA Nations League? Did anyone watch that?
The problem is none of these competition organisers are going to be willing to sacrifice anything because they all make money off it. So UEFA aren't going to sit there and go, oh, you know what, for the good of the game, we don't need the Nations League, because that's like the Euros, which happen once every 4 years. That's how they make the money.
No, I agree. But that's why I think what Josh is saying holds water, in the sense of no one is going to cut a competition. The clubs and owners are not going to cut. So the only other option is to increase the size of the squads. But then it comes about saying to the managers, you've got to fucking play them. So maybe then you set rules. Maybe you set rules where your squad's this size and every player's got to have X amount of games in it. This is the irony, right? As fans, we all say, we've got to protect these players. If this was suggested, fans would go mad. Well, you set a set rule that every player has to start and or feature in a set amount of games a season. That way it guarantees rotation and protects people.
Like the old medal qualifying rule.
Oh, but my team might not win them. So you don't care about the welfare of the players then, do you? Like, this is the problem. There's always the only way, every solution, there's going to be a drawback. The problem is in reality, the fans really care about the welfare of players. No, we care about winning. We only really call the welfare out when we get injuries and we can't fucking win. When you're winning, no one cares about players playing 60 games a season. No City fan was going, we better slow down using Rodri in this treble run, in this four-peat run, because who knows, his knee might fucking explode soon. No one said that. No one gave a fuck. His knee goes, I think football's got to change something, you know. So it's either we do something, again, it will hinder all our teams. We'll all lose more. We will all lose. If we did that thing where you've got a 25, 30-man squad and every player's got to start across all comps at least 8 games a season. I'm making the numbers up here. All of us would lose more football matches. But that's the way of protecting players' welfare. That's the only way I can think. Like, only through this debate that we've had. Unless anyone's got another suggestion, like, that's crazy.
I think the add-ons for that would be, if they're going to expand the squad size, I do get George's concern about the academy system and the fact that it almost mean like the academies are just getting left alone because they want to bring in more players. That's where I think it could be, because in like other leagues, I don't think it's necessarily in any of the top leagues, but I know that in like Portugal, I think, and like Belgium and that, the rule is you've got to have X amount of academy players in your matchday squad. So that could be a thing you bring in. If you want to expand the squad size to 30, you've got to have each player playing a minimum of X amount of games per season, and each matchday squad must have X amount of homegrown players in to ensure that both they're getting the benefit of a bigger squad size, which helps with the rotation, but neither aspect is then getting sort of sacrificed along the way.
Yeah. I hear you. Either way round, there's a sacrifice. There's either going to be a financial sacrifice for clubs and the associations or a sacrifice for the fans. And if we really care about the players' welfare like we like to pretend we do, then we should be accepting of it, shouldn't we? But we all know in our art, you know, there's City fans, oh gosh, man of games. When you're lifting that World Club Cup, you'll be celebrating it. You will. And that's not a dig at you individually. I just feel that, yeah, we only care when it goes wrong, essentially. Chelsea's lineup's just come out, guys. Sanchez, Gusto, Chalobah, Colwell, Cucurella, Caicedo, Enzo, Neto, Palmer, Sancho, Jackson. Is there as well. Limit the players' minutes to a healthy maximum. Do you know what that reminds me of? It was for different reasons, but it reminds me of in the early 90s when it hurt English teams a lot because Irish and Scottish players were considered foreign. But when you could only have a certain amount of foreign-born players in your teams, like honestly, that really hurt a lot of the 90s English teams when it came to trying to win European trophies. And that's also what would if you brought this in, it would change football because suddenly, imagine you're Barcelona, you're looking at right. If we get to the final but play Yamal in the quarters and the semi, we've got no minutes left. We can't start the final. That's what will start to happen. So you suddenly would have to draw a line in football in terms of assessing greatest teams, greatest players. Because it would change dramatically with a rule like that. And also, by the way, rightly or wrongly, it's why it won't fucking happen. It just won't happen.
Sorry, I'm gonna change my prediction now. I've seen the lineups. I thought we'd draw 1-1.
Vicario, Spence, Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie, Bentancur, Bergvall, Maddison, Odebert, Solanke, Son. What's made you change your mind about that?
The fact that we've got Romero and Van der Ven as a pairing, and he's gone with.
Hang on. Let's have a bet. Let's have a bet. I'll give 2-1 odds on one of the hamstrings going in this game.
Well, which one? Are you going Van der Ven or Romero?
I'm going to go Van der Ven, slight tweak, grade 1. I'll give you 3-1 odds on that. It's pretty good odds, to be fair. No, I'm joking. Look,
I like the midfield as well. I like the fact that he's.
You like his Tottenham midfield with Bentancur in?
No, I like it. I like the fact that he's played
yeah.
Drogba and Maddison, going the fact that he's going to try and control this game. That's the aim there.
It's going to be an interesting one. Look, viewers, I want to thank every single person that has tuned in. We're going to be live after the game, so make sure you're back with us here at the Terrace. I think this video is going to redirect you to our full fan highlight show, so it'd be great to get some of you back here to review the game with us. Josh, George, Tom, and Henry, thank you all very, very much for coming on. To all of my super chatters and everyone who's hit the like button, thank you. Until next time, take care, goodbye, God bless, and we'll see you all again soon. Peace.